Hello, I'm Lee Hobrla. I'm a Sunday school teacher at St. Anne's, and I teach in the Godly Play program. Today I'd like to share the story with you, the story of the faces of Easter. So here's some things that we can use to tell the story. Jesus chose Mary to be the mother of God, and the Word was born, a wordless child. When the baby looked into the face of Mother Mary, he could already see the cross. When he looked into the face of Father Joseph, the cross was there too. They gave the baby everything it needed to grow. They held it close, and it grew. When Jesus was about 12 years old, he went with his mother Mary and Father Joseph and the people from his village in Nazareth to the great city of Jerusalem to keep a high holy day. After the celebration was over, the people of Nazareth left through the high gate on the road back to Nazareth. Suddenly, Mary and Joseph noticed that Jesus wasn't with them. They thought he had been playing with the other children from the village, but he wasn't there. They hurried back to the great city of Jerusalem to look for him, and they looked everywhere. Finally, they even went to the temple, and there he was. He was with the rabbis, priests. When he spoke, they listened because he knew so much. When they spoke, he listened because he wanted to learn more. Mary and Joseph asked him the question all parents ask their children, the question you can never answer. Why did you do this? Jesus said something strange. He said, "Did you not know I would be at my Father's house?" They didn't understand. Their house was in Nazareth. But they remembered. Jesus grew and became a man. When he was about 30 years old, he went to the River Jordan where his cousin John was baptizing people. Do you see John? You can just see the back of his head. He was a wild man. Jesus wandered into the River Jordan until he was face to face with John, and he said, "Baptize me." John looked at Jesus as if for the very first time and said, "I can't baptize you. You are the Messiah, the one we've been waiting for. You must baptize me." Jesus said, "No, it is written that you will come before me and prepare the way. Baptize me." Jesus went down into the dark chaos of the water, and when John lifted him into the light, some people there said they saw a dove come down from heaven above him. Other people said they heard a voice. The voice said, "This is my beloved Son, with whom I'm well pleased." Jesus went across the river into the desert for 40 days and 40 nights to figure out what his work was going to be. There's very little to eat or drink in the desert. Jesus was praying. One day he heard a voice and it said, "Why don't you turn one of those stones over there into bread and have something to eat?" Jesus said, "No, to be a real human being, we need more than just bread to eat." Then it was as if Jesus could see all the kingdoms of the whole world. And the voice said, "If you will follow me, I will make you king over all these kingdoms." Jesus said, "No, I am to be a king, but not that kind of king." Then the voice went away. Jesus came back across the Jordan River to begin his work, but what was his work to be? His work was to come close to people, especially people who other people didn't want to be close to. See, he came close to this blind man. He is so close that he has touched the man's eyes. When Jesus came close to people, they changed. They could see things they could not see before. They became well. Jesus told parables. Finally, he knew he had to become a parable. So he turned toward Jerusalem for the last time. It was a time of Passover, and the city was full of people from many different lands. They thought Jesus was coming to be king, but they were not paying attention. He wasn't riding on a great white horse. He wasn't being carried by soldiers. He was riding on a donkey, and it wasn't even his. He had borrowed it. Still, that Sunday, when Jesus came into Jerusalem, people waved palm branches, which were a sign of kings. On Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, Jesus went into the temple to teach. Every night he went back to the Mount of Olives with the 12. The people watched him and whispered that it was on the Mount of Olives that the angels were supposed to come down to make an army to drive away the Roman soldiers. The temple guards said, "On Thursday we will take him." But on Thursday they could not find him. That evening, Jesus and the 12 hurried down the darkened street to a house and climbed the stairs to the upper room where they shared their Last Supper. After they had everything they wanted to eat, Jesus took some bread and gave thanks for it and said something like this: "Whenever you break the bread like this and share it, I will be there." He also took a cup of wine, gave thanks to God for it, and said, "Whenever you share a cup of wine like this together, I will be there." Suddenly, Judas got up and left. The rest sang a hymn and went to the Garden of Gethsemane on the Mount of Olives. Jesus wanted to pray. When he was finished, he joined the 12, but Judas came out from the shadows and greeted him. This was a signal for the temple guards to take him. They too came out of the shadows and took Jesus away with them into the night. The night was a confusing one. The next day, Jesus was taken outside the walls of the city and crucified. That afternoon, Jesus died. The sky grew dark. Jesus was taken down from the cross and buried in a cave. A great stone was rolled into the opening of the cave to close it. Saturday was so quiet, you could almost hear the earth breathing. On Sunday, it was the women who went to the tomb just to be close to Jesus. They wanted to be near, even if it was sad. When they came to the tomb, they found that the stone had been rolled back and the tomb was empty. Jesus had died on the cross, but somehow he was still with them as he is with us, especially in the bread and the wine. When you look at this side, you know the other side is there. When you look at this side, you know that we have this side. You cannot pull the two of them apart, and that makes all the difference. And so the color changes. Wait a minute. Something is wrong. Here is the beginning, and then we have the middle, and the end is, look, if we only have this side, the story has an end. But there's also this side. The ending is also a beginning, so we can't leave the story in a line. Let's see what we can do.
the story can go on forever. I wonder what part of the story you like most. I wonder what part of the story is most important. I wonder what part of this story is about you or you are in. I wonder if there's any part of this story we can leave out and still have all the parts we need.